It's that no nonsense. First, I want to send my condolences to Kobe Bryant's family and also the families of the other passengers on the plane, and including the pilot. What happened was tragic. Kobe Bryant has been my favorite NBA player, and it came to me as a complete shock that he was involved in that accident with his daughter and the other passengers, including the pilot. And obviously, I was on the well, I won't say obviously, you guys didn't know. I was on a hiatus to take a moment of peace to pretty much honor that. He was great to the game of basketball, a very exciting player. So, well, I'm back now. I'm here to talk about Mark Jackson. This is part one about why I think he was fired, and also talking about why I'm at it. Is Mark Jackson a better coach than Steve Kerr, right? As a lot of Golden State haters or fans debate, and even other basketball fans and haters debate. So here it is. Right now, Kerr looks great. This is Joe Lacob's quote and talking about his time with Mark Jackson, which led to his firing. Right now, Kerr looks great. I think he will be great. And he did one big thing that I wanted more than anything else from Mark Jackson. He just wouldn't do, in all honesty, which is hire the very best. So he's saying that Mark Jackson wouldn't hire the very best. Take my wallet, do whatever it is to get the best assistants there are in the world. Period. In the story. Don't want to hear it. And Jackson's answer was, well, I have the best staff. And Joe Lacob says, no, you don't. And so was Steve, very, very different. Well, so Joe Lacob is saying that one of the problems he had with Jackson was a more of a basketball business, and I can understand. I can try to understand more of a basketball nuance. His perspective clash with Mark Jackson. Keep in mind, I could try to understand why Mark Jackson was firm, but in his eyes stubborn. It's because they was trending upward, right? They upsetted a 57-59 Denver Nuggets team. They led 3-1, beat them in 6, right? They lost to San Antonio in 6 games. The same San Antonio team who ended up losing in 7 games to Miami. So Mark is like, what do you mean I need to hire better staff? We're trending upwards, right? We're trending upwards. And I could tell you that most likely Joe Lacob wanted him to hire better staff to ultimately replace him so he can put, that assistant staff as the analytical nerd. Because keep in mind, the best styles it's ultimately going to be the analytical nerds, right? So let's keep going. You can't have a staff underneath you that isn't very good. And if you're going to get better, you got to have really good assistants. You got to have people that can be there to replace you. Well, that's the thing, Joe Lacob, right? I want to understand what do you mean by his staff. Golden State was top 5 in defense, and they were trending upwards. So I wonder what made you think in your mind that he didn't have a very good staff. Mark Jackson's like, I'm trending upwards, and I know this is a more of a analytics slash characteristics and philosophies of life difference, because he wanted him to hire more of a, like I said, analytical nerd and someone that can do and follow their agendas like they want, right? Mark Jackson is a guy who is religious, right? So their philosophies are going to be different. They were trending upwards. They did lose to the Clippers in 7 games the very next round. That 7-game series could have went either way, though. So Mark Jackson felt like they were trending upwards. The Golden State Warriors team felt like they were trending upwards, right? So Mark was confused. Like I said, with the whole analytical thing, you look at players like Shaq, Charles, and all them old players. They're like, it's fine, analytics, cute. But at the end of the day, we're big, or, we're going to dominate, right? We believe in playing the game, and you guys don't play the game. We play the game. So I can only imagine Mark Jackson is saying that I used to be a point guard. I played the game. On top of that, we're trending upwards, right? Let me do my job. I can only imagine the arguments they were having. It's management, pause 101. Well, management 101 is being a business snake, right? You look at Tyronn Lue with David Blatt. He had the support of LeBron to ultimately replace David Blatt because LeBron didn't like him. You look at the whole Chicago Bulls situation. You look at Rob Pelinka with Magic Johnson. So, I don't understand how it would benefit Mark Jackson to get replaced by the assistant coach. Hey, man, I got to hire a good assistant so you guys can replace me, right? It tells me that you wanted to replace him a lot earlier. A lot of people on the outside couldn't understand it when we fired Mark Jackson because, like I said, you guys were trending upward. Part of it was that he couldn't get along with anyone else in the organization, like I've said. But there you go. That's the real problem. Keep in mind, they got the president of basketball operations named Rick Welts. He is openly gay. His first partner died of AIDS somewhere in the 90s. He had a second partner. He wanted to keep the relationship under wraps. He resigned from the Phoenix Suns and moved over to Golden State, San Francisco, California, liberal capital. And when I talk about the liberals and the Democrat, I'm not a Republican. They all both wicked. But Democrats are even more wicked, and I can tell you. Look at this. And look, he did a great job, and we'll always compliment him in many respects. But you can't have two people in the organization that like you. In other words, we didn't agree with your beliefs, Mark. And Mark was firm. Obviously, he had prayer. And he was probably like, you guys can do what you want, but I'm going to do what I want. Right? And you guys are not going to stop that. Pretty sure, Mark Jackson is like that. Those guys were probably like, Mark, can you keep your, beliefs under wraps? And Mark was like, no, I'm going to do what I do. So, like I said, Mark is real firm in what he believes in. And it obviously went against what they believed in. The 200 people in the organization. Keep in mind, their star player, Stephen Curry, liked him. So they pretty much went against what Stephen Curry liked and hired the coach that they wanted. Right? Keep in mind, the NBA is more liberal. And the reason why liberals amongst the horrible, because it ain't like, okay, you believe what you want, I believe what we want. Let's just move out the way. No, the liberals want to think for you. If they even find out that you don't believe in what they believe, they want you crucified. They want you thrown away. They're going to try to socially bully you, financially bully you, into believing what they want to believe. Want you to believe. They want to pretty much want you to say what they want you to say. They want you to think what they want you to think. That's the biggest problem with the Democrats. They're hypocrites, right? This is why they teach guys to be idolaters, right? When I go into telling you about the liberal media, the sports media, right, Disney and all of that, they really want to teach you how to be idolaters. This is what they come into with being a fan, obviously. This is why they prop up a lot of these NBA players and a lot of these celebrities that they can do no wrong. They call them role models, right? Because they want you to idolize them. So they can ultimately control you. When you idolize someone, you're going to want to copy them. The way you talk, the way you walk, right? Your philosophies. They pretty much want to teach you to be an idolater of them. So they can control you. Because that's what the Democrats want. They want to they want to brainwash you. That's what they seek to do. They are extremely wicked. And like I tell you about Disney, Disney spreads the devil's work. Just here to tell you about that. But that's why he was ultimately fired, right? Mark Jackson, whether he did it openly or whatever, it just his philosophies of life, the way he ran his organization, contradicted what Lacob wanted, and Lacob wanted him gone. And Mark didn't listen to Lacob. He like, what I'm doing is working because we're trending upwards. Right? And I can just guarantee you it's more of a philosophy thing rather than a business thing. Now, on to the discussion of is Mark Jackson a better coach than Steve Kerr. But Harrison Barnes finna talk about it, right? And saying that he's not a better coach than Steve Kerr doesn't validate Joe Lacob, nor doesn't say Mark Jackson is a garbage coach. Mark Jackson is not a bad coach. He's a good development coach. He's a great defensive coach. His offensive sets were average, right? It wasn't great and it wasn't poor. Steve Kerr's offensive sets are above average. They're actually a bit transcendent. Keep in mind, Steve Kerr's background is Steve Kerr played under Phil Jackson. He played under Greg, and he was the GM when Mike D'Antoni was the coach. So he got a lot of Mike's 21 series sets. Now, if you go into coaching details, you'll know what I'm talking about when I talk about 21 series. You got a lot of Greg Popovich ball movement, player movement, right? And the adjustment style of basketball in terms of playing like water. Bruce Lee said, be like water. Water takes the shape of whatever it is in. That's how San Antonio plays, and that's how Warriors play. They adjust to anything. And he also got a psychological edge like Phil Jackson did. He was called the Yin Master. Jin, Yin, whatever. Phil Jackson would try to psychologically get into your mind. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. Like, different coaches have their way in trying to get their message across. And Phil Jackson was more psychological. So he had a bit of a psychological edge to his way of coaching. And Warriors have bits of the triangle, right? So he got a lot of the best of the best. And Mike D'Antoni's system is great. Mike D'Antoni is, however, not water. He is stubborn. He does not adjust, nor does he believe in defense. That's Mike D'Antoni's problem. This is why Mike D'Antoni will get so close, but never win. He's the epitome of so close, but yet so far. So here's a Barnes is going to talk about why I believe Mark Jackson is not a better coach than Steve Kerr. It's hard when you get the ball in the ISO situation, and you have to set a set defense in front of you. He used to talk about Mark Jackson's offense, because keep in mind, Golden State was like bottom half in the league in passing. They ran an ISO set. I guarantee you that Steph was going to break down. Imagine them guys, attacking Steph on the defense, and Steph was wearing himself down on the ISO situations. It was pretty much a pick and roll, ISO, break down the defense, kick out to three-point shooters type style of play. And Steph quite benefited a little bit, and it's not taking anything away from Steph. Steph is a superstar, and I think I have about 4 superstars. You have LeBron, Steph, KD, and Kawhi Leonard. Those guys won the championship, right? Those guys are a bit transcendent. You have borderline superstars like Giannis and James Harden. If James Harden can win a championship, he becomes in that realm of the superstars. If Giannis can do that, he becomes in the realm of those superstars. And obviously, Luka's approaching that. Then you have the other guys like AD, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. And I put Luka there because obviously James Harden and Giannis been doing it longer. And I still got to see about Luka. Right? But I have 4 superstars. So Steph Curry is great. However, I guarantee you that Steph Curry would have broken down under Mark Jackson's system over time. Steve Kerr obviously ran the best of the best. And he was able to preserve Curry. Right? A lot of guys say, well, Curry can't get the assists because I don't see his assist numbers. He don't get the rebounds. He don't do all the other things people do. They believe that since a player can do more, he is better. Say that if this guy can do 3 things, and if his one thing is extremely transcendent and win some championships, and your 3 things don't win you championships, that means that his one thing is better than your 3 things combined. That's how I argue with. A lot of guys going to go into, oh man, Russell can do this, Russell can do that. However, Russell don't win the championship. Steph Curry does. Russell had KD, by the way. Steph Curry did too. Steph was able to win. That means that the very few things Steph Curry have is better than all the things Russell Westbrook have. That includes Chris Paul. That includes Kyrie Irving. Right? So a lot of guys going to go into just because these guys do a lot more, or quote unquote required to do a lot more, because it's somehow Stephen Curry's fault that these guys don't want to sacrifice, right? Because these guys had great players. These guys don't want to sacrifice like Steph to the degree of Steph Curry did. They may have sacrificed a bit, but not to the degree of Steph Curry. Steph Curry was in the 7 and 8 in the assists, right? When he played under Steve Kerr, he dropped drastically because Steve Kerr had equal dollar in the other 4s and 3s. And 5s, Bogut and Draymond playmake. And Steph Curry obviously does a different thing. You have many people do their gifts and only their gifts. This is why they're able to win consistently. If you have a guy that does everything and manages to win, they won't win consistently. It just looks good. And you believe that if a person does everything, if they suddenly get the right amount of players, they can win. But when they do get the right amount of players, nobody fits around them. That's why you have to sacrifice. Right? So I don't hold sacrificing against Curry. But I guarantee you that if Mark Jackson was the coach, he would have had Steph Curry do a lot more, and he would have broken down. So let's continue. Barnes said very few players in the league can do that. In other words, isolate on set defense. You look at the best, Durant, Melo, obviously New York Melo. Those guys, look at what percentage they shoot, and that's the best of the best. So maybe the percentage he was looking at wasn't really that high, right? So you can imagine where I'm at, 15, 20 on ISOs. Basically, I'm not a good ISO player. To give me the ball, to get me with the ball moving, getting me in different spots, playing off other people, that's more of a strength for me right now. In other words, Steve Kerr's offense, that's the ultimate difference. Steve Kerr's offense is more transcendent, it's more more diverse, multi-dimensional, right? It's more transcendent. Basically, Mark Jackson's offense was a bit basic. Steve Kerr's offensive system was a lot better. And obviously, Steve Kerr got Ron Adams, who's supposed to be a great defensive coach. So they was able to build off the foundations of Mark Jackson in terms of their defense, and he gave them a transcendent offense. So they was top 5 in defense already, and he made them top 5 in offense, automatically making them a title contender. And if you obviously look on the videos of Warriors offense, you know, from coaching minds or people with coaching minds, they break down Golden State offense, whether it's any other team, and Golden State offense. You're going to appreciate Steve Kerr's offense a lot more because it's extremely detailed, it's extremely organized, and it's, you know, it's genius. Just being real with you, right? And I don't blame you for guys truly not knowing the nuances of the game because, like I said, the media don't talk about the true and in-depth semantics of the game. They more so talk about hyperbole trying to get you to be fans of players, right? And push their narratives and agendas. So you guys are quite going to look at the game at a very basic level, right? But if you are, you know, obviously a multi-dimensional thinker, and if you want to go into more in depth of how guys run their offense, then you guys are going to appreciate a lot of Steve Kerr's offense. Because that's who coaches in the league is copying. Greg, him, you know, and some, you know, maybe Brad Stevens. So basically, Harrison Barnes saying that when I was under Mark Jackson, I wasn't very good. When I was with Steve Kerr, I transcend. Personally, you're one of the biggest reasons why they lost the finals, Harrison Barnes. And you was in Golden State's offense. But I get what Harrison Barnes is saying. He's telling you that Steve Kerr's offense is more for, obviously, role players and to get the best out of everyone. So this is why I say that Steve Kerr is a better coach than Mark Jackson. So this is the end of part 1. I'm going to get more in depth on this on part 2. It's a video when where Stephen Curry is on Matt Barnes and Stephen Jackson's podcast. It's going to be part 2. Stand no nonsense.